I'm here to answer the important questions, as I do, of course. And today is possibly the most important of all the important questions I've attempted to answer, and that is Jar Jar Binks from Star Wars a good general? Ah, what the hell am I saying? Of course the Chips Ahoy one was more important. So, first of all, there is only one moment in Star Wars in which Jar Jar commands an army. Now, I know there's at least one more incident in the Clone Wars TV show, but I don't have access to that, and I don't want to watch that, so oh well. I also know there's probably at least one other incident out there because this franchise is a damn Leviathan. There's always more to look at somehow, but if there is, I don't know about it, so I'm not going to talk about it. So, yeah. So, the one moment I will cover in this video is the Battle of Naboo from Star Wars The Phantom Menace. Now, I don't want to give a damn Wikipedia plot synopsis of the whole movie, because if you're watching this, you probably have seen The Phantom Menace, but here's a simplified version. The Trade Federation invades Naboo, which is inhabited by humans and Gungans. Some Gungan named Jar Jar Binks becomes a main character, and everybody wants to kill him. Not in the movie, in real life. After a while of other stuff, Qui-Gon, Jinn, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Padme, Anakin, and Jar Jar come back to Naboo and convince the Gungans to fight against the Trade Federation. And for allying the Gungans with the rest of Naboo, the leader of the Gungans, this big Chungus-looking guy named Boss Nass, makes Jar Jar Binks the Bomb Bad General, which is just the general of the Gungan forces. Which, a nice military structure there. Yeah. Very, very nice one. The plan to defeat the Trade Federation was to lure the big boy droid army they had in the capital of Naboo called Theed, so that there were less droids in Theed, and thus making it easier for Padme, Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, and the other Naboo forces to infiltrate Theed, while simultaneously Naboo pilots would attack the control ship to deactivate the droid army. Of course, Jar Jar was only in charge of the Gungan army, so I will be covering the battle between the Gungans and the droids. This is where the fun part begins. So, Jar Jar first moves his army into a valley like 40 kilometers away from Theed, which normally wouldn't be a good idea because there's much more favorable terrain right behind them. But Jar Jar's purpose was to coax the droid army out of Theed, which worked, so I'll give it a pass, I guess. The Gungans were armed with shield spears against guns, and most importantly, these blue ball things called boomas. The Gungan army had boomas of varying sizes. There were small ones, about the size of a softball, thrown with atlatls. Medium ones, the size of a bowling ball, thrown by swinging it around with a strap before throwing it. I'm sure there's a name for the mechanism they use to throw it, but I don't know what it is. And finally, they had huge ones that had to be launched with a catapult. Some of the Gungans were on Cadus. They also brought shield generators on the back of big amphibian things called Fombas, which made shields that protected the whole army from any external laser fire. Once again, I'm not going to give or remove any points on Jar Jar for the equipment of the Gungans, as I don't think he could have changed that even if he wanted to. Not like he would want to. He's not smart enough to fathom that. Soon after positioning in the valley, the droid army showed up under the command of this handsome droid named 9. The droid army consisted of armored assault tanks and multi-troop transports, which carried thousands of droids. Oh my god, why the actual shit is there a garbage truck outside my house? Fucking hell. Okay. Where was I? Oh yeah. Upon making it into the valley, 9 ordered his tanks to shell the absolute shit out of the Gungans. but he really should have known better, because thanks to the shields they had, it literally did nothing. So he almost immediately ordered them to stop and moved forward his troop transports to deploy all of his infantry droids. Now, this here is one of Jar Jar's first big mistakes. While he was getting shelled, his army was completely unscathed. However, they could not attack the droids during this because the entire army was inside the shields. So you can't move in or out of the shields, but you actually can. You can walk through them. You can't like throw or shoot stuff. Why is it back? Hold on. It's a, oh my! I've never seen this here. Why the hell is there a crane here? I live in the suburbs. Okay, I'm just gonna hope that's quiet enough by this point, to the point where it won't interfere with the audio anymore. Let's see, where was I? Let's see. Okay, if Jar Jar was smart, which he isn't, he would have positioned his Booma catapults behind his shields or on the hills directly behind them, where they would still be safe from most fire, but would still be capable of hitting the droid army. The big Boomas the catapults launch are very capable of damaging the armored assault tanks, as we literally see a tank get eviscerated by one. So that would probably mean that they could also disable the droid troop transports, which I'm fairly certain that would make it impossible to deploy the droids inside them. So if Jar Jar played his cards right here, he could have pretty much ended the battle before it began, but he didn't. And yes, I know, catapults aren't very accurate, but it would still be more effective than how the Gungans did use them. So anyways, after sitting and doing nothing while the droids were deployed, Jar Jar then proceeded to also do nothing as the droids crossed right into his shields. And once again, another mistake, Jar Jar could have moved his shield-bearing troops right to the edge of the shields to immediately engage the droids when they crossed in, preventing all the droids from crossing in all at once, make it easier to pick off all the droids one by one as they crossed in. And even if they did manage to break through into the shields, they would at least be completely disorganized by that point. The Gungans do appear to have the numerical advantage, judging from this shot, or they could just be much more loosely organized. But instead of doing anything, I just said, Jar Jar allowed this shit to happen. After the droids cross into the Gungan shields, the real battle begins, and the Gungans actually appear to not do too bad. No thanks to Jar Jar, of course. He's too busy getting into wacky shenaniganery. However, the Gungans do lose all cohesion, as well as the droids, but fighting the Gungans does not appear to be the main goal of the droids, as not too long after making it into the shields, they successfully destroy the shield generators, which was likely Nine's goal with deploying the infantry in the first place. Jar Jar should have been trying to better protect the shield generators at first, but I mean, by this point, there wasn't much hope for victory. So, after the shield generators are destroyed, the Gungans retreat and lose any semblance of cohesion they had left. Now that the Gungans were exposed, 9 ordered his tanks to start firing on the Gungans, and completely shredded them. By this point, defeat was imminent. There was no hope for victory. So, most things that happen after the shields go down don't matter. So, even though the droid army did take casualties during this stage of the battle, they were negligible. After attempting to retreat, Jar Jar and an enormous number of Gungans were captured by the droid army. According to Wikipedia, 543 Gungans were killed in battle. So anyways, after all that hard work and effort on the part of the droids, it's completely undone by a dumb idiot 8-year-old who hates sand blowing up their entire fucking control ship, disabling the entire droid army, including my man 9. You would think the Trade Federation would have, like, a backup place to command the droids from, but I guess not. Who needs backups anyways? Despite losing that hard, Jar Jar still got off scot-free because the battle in the other two theaters of action, I guess, were won by Naboo. Still ended up being a victory overall. So what happened to Jar Jar for this humiliating failure? Was he once again cast out from Gungan society? Was he forced to live being constantly ridiculed for causing the avoidable death of over 500 Gungans? Well, for his abysmal leadership, he was elected senator. Well, not too far from real politics, am I right, Phil? So, is Jar Jar Binks a good general? No, I don't think anyone is going to argue that. And if for some reason there's someone trying to defend him by saying, well, his only job was to distract the droid army, so he didn't have to win. There's no part in being a distraction that requires getting your ass kicked. So, final score, 3 out of 10. He sucks ass and gave no orders besides throughout the entire battle. Didn't make any use of his advantages, played into his enemy's strength, but I guess he still technically fulfilled his purpose, so I guess even if he did a shitty job of it, 3 out of 10, it would be lower if it wasn't for that. Also, because I feel like it, I'll also give a score to my guy, 9. I'll give him a 6 out of 10. Yes, the one proper battle he was in did end up going exceptionally well for him, but that was mainly due to his opponent's incompetence, not his strategy. Or maybe he was actually a galaxy brain military wizard who shaped his orders around how incompetent Jar Jar was. We can't say for sure he didn't. So, in conclusion, Jar Jar bad. That's usually the conclusion given for any assessment of Jar Jar in any category. I still don't know how to end a video, so like, comment, and subscribe, please. I need those sweet, sweet subscribers, please.